Welcome back to the podcast. This is your host, Brother Sean Brumfield. This is Pulpit to the Pew. And I have Brother Ryan Brown with me this afternoon.
Hey, everybody.
And returning, we have Sister Alyssa.
Hi.
And Sister Becca.
Hey.
And also, we have two more guests. They've been in homecoming with us this week, and that's Brother David Bradley.
Hello.
And Sister Darla Bradley.
Hello.
How you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
How was homecoming?
It was great.
Was it the first taste of food that we have out there that spread? Was it crazy?
It was very good.
Very good.
It was like length of a basketball court, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So much food.
It is. It's crazy. The church has always done that. You know, since before we were ever coming there, we had so many people that would bring all that food, and it's kind of become what our church has become known for is the buffet line.
Yeah, if you ask for the Stephen Allen, that's all we're known for is that, that little spread.
That's
that we
what
have
tells
out there
everybody.
Every year.
He brings a bigger crowd to the food line every year
Yeah,
too.
he does. He's getting bigger and bigger.
But the trick is, while everyone is in line for the food, you have to go get your dessert. That's the trick.
Yeah.
That not a lot of people know.
Well, you're telling it a little late.
I was going to say,
Well, now they know for next year. No, because I wanted the dessert first. So why would I tell it and then everyone go over there?
Because the good stuff is gone before you get there.
Yeah, that turtle cheesecake.
yeah, I saw that. I was a little heartbroken.
You didn't get you a piece.
No.
First thing I get off that table is some nanner pudding.
Well, I'm gonna tell you.
Out of all that stuff, look.
That's what I want. Nanner pudding is my favorite.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Oh, we know you have a history.
Yeah, I can't do bananas. Really?
I love them too, and I can't eat them because literally just has an aversion to bananas.
Yeah, you can't say you can't eat them because you and your kids eat them.
I know,
There was
but-
one time that you bought like 3 or 4 bundles of bananas, big old things. So I used to eat them all the time when I was a kid, and I don't know when it changed, but now I think I've got an allergy to it. That's the only way I can
think you
explain
do
it.
too.
Because I can't even take the smell.
Yeah.
It instantly causes a reaction, and my kids love it because they'll pack them and they'll eat them in the car, and you could just you just hear it, and I can smell it instantly, and my stomach will start turning, and you feel that like little gag reflex or whatever.
I
But-
think he really is a little
Yeah,
like he's that.
I will
it's
say.
that bad.
I'll say one time it was funny because my one boy Caden is a very picky kid, and I was trying to get him to eat green beans or something like that. I can't remember what it was, and so I told him, I said, "Listen, I said if you'll eat all your green beans, I'll eat this banana." And so he shoveled them green beans in. I couldn't even get one bite in that banana. I put one in my mouth and I was like just about ready to heave. It was bad. I couldn't keep my end of the bargain up.
So you cheated him out.
Yeah, but he got his green beans, which is better for him anyway.
The banana's good for you too. Keeps you from getting in leg cramps at night.
Yeah, no, I don't have to worry about that.
Oh, dude, I did. When I remember being a teenager and said, well, I'm just going to say I'm not the most athletic person out there.
You're
right?
not?
No. Yeah. I used to go out there and,
Like it was so
be dunking
shocking.
on people. The only thing I'd be dunking be donuts. But we would go out in like youth camp and play volleyball, and like I'd be giving my little heart all that I could out there and go home and like wake up with a leg cramp, like, oh, right in the middle of the night, just like, oh, Lord, help me, Lord, I woke up a cousin out of a dead sleep doing that one time. And he was like, we just got out of church, man. Like, you don't need to be calling on him right now. I'm like, yeah, I'm hurting, dude.
That's funny. I'm gonna have to remember the turtle cheesecake and make sure you come back for homecoming. I'll have you some set aside.
Sounds good. I never had any allergies in my whole life and got COVID, and all of a sudden developed a allergy to peanut butter, peanuts, and so I found that out the hard way.
That sounds miserable.
Yeah.
That's like my number one like flavor. Like as far as I love peanut butter and peanuts, but like I don't like the artificial kind of like peanut butter taste, but without peanut butter.
That would be hard.
Yeah, they say, I guess you say it all the time, I guess that changes every 6 months. And so I'm hoping it'll change back. It's one of my favorite things.
Listen, what I thought was funny was when I had him text you guys and asked for any allergies.
Sorry about that. I actually forgot. Well, I've never had anything my whole life, and then I
That's
was
like a
like,
huge allergy. Nuts. is
Yeah, I know.
huge.
which is actually kind of funny because when we asked for like so we could get you guys snacks and stuff for the hotel room, and
He said yours.
Usually tells mine.
well he did.
Yes.
He said you were allergic to cherries.
Cherries, yeah.
Right. And there was nothing about peanut butter or nothing.
That's how much he loves me. He's putting my allergy before
Look how
his.
cool he is.
I've never really been too much into sweets anyway, so
Yeah.
it's usually them. So
That's funny.
So how much of that basket did you get devoured?
I ate quite a bit of stuff. Let's just put it that way. The
Probably
girls,
like maybe a fourth.
all right. Yeah.
Might have to upgrade next year. So, might have to get a bigger basket next
Get a
year.
big one. Yeah.
It was huge.
Yeah.
That basket was huge.
That's fun. Man, it's been a privilege having you guys with us this week. Homecoming revival. Homecoming is one of those deals as a pastor where I'm excited when it comes. And obviously we pray that God will have his way. And then homecoming Sunday, and we have the dinner and all that stuff. And by the time that homecoming Sunday dinner is done, I am so thankful that homecoming is over.
Yeah. I think every church is about that way.
Yeah.
A lot of churches, though, do homecoming on. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And then the revival. So,
Yeah. There's been several of them that's changed it where they do the homecoming first and then they go into revival. Yeah. I don't know if my nerves could handle.
That seems exhausting.
Yeah.
I don't know. You've already exerted so much energy throughout the week trying to get yourself ready and to go to church that I think it would.
as the preacher,
I think too.
your voice is wore out by the time you get to homecoming.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, they do that way they get to the dinner faster.
yeah.
It helps the lady, like the ladies have to cook,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
to wait on.
I see how people do it both ways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where my dad pastors at, they do homecoming like us, but they don't have Saturday night service.
Yeah.
And that gives everybody that Saturday to cook, and then they come back on Sunday. Sharonville has always done Monday through Sunday. I think they did
They
it
used to
before.
do Wednesday. They
Okay.
used to years ago when I think it was your dad
Changed
moved it from Monday to Sunday. I'm like,
Okay,
what is
well,
this?
see, so here's the deal. I can claim because people say, man, you go Monday through Sunday and you got all your people cooking and all that stuff, and you do that big meal. And I've had several people say, you're like some slave driver doing all this. And I could just come in and say, it was already set up that way. I'm just keeping up with tradition.
I like it either way. I get that they are either one is beneficial.
Yeah.
But I think starting out be probably a little bit better. That way, it's all the effort goes in, and then the rest of the week you don't have to worry about making it perfect. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Obviously not rest, but you're not resting because you're still pushing yourself out there. But the extra exertion is going to.
Well, listen, Brother Birdsong, I don't want you to get. I don't want you to get in a fight with your pastor here around this table talk here. Let's just
Wrong
pray about
podcast.
this.
Wrong podcast.
Brother Bradley was telling us before we got started, he didn't even know the name of our podcast.
I did.
Yeah. Sister Bradley knew. It's wonderful. No, so when you start dealing with some of that stuff, whether you change it from the Sunday and then you go into revival, or you do revival and then you have the dinner on Sunday, the other thing that you focus on is tradition. If you change tradition, change always sounds good to the person that wants change.
Yeah,
I learned that the hard way.
with you there too. Yeah,
It's not worth dying on that hill.
That's right.
No. And our church has always done that. I will say the dinner, and I've been one of those ones that we've kind of been known for the dinner. We kind of go almost, I would say, a little over half the length of a basketball court with just food, and then we go almost the full width with just dessert. I mean, that's pretty close to how much food we set out there, and it's everything, chicken, ham, all that stuff. But that's kind of what we become known for. So I'm kind of that pastor now. It's like I want that to be the icing on the cake. I want the homecoming to be man, these powerful services are just, but that tradition is you got to have that huge buffet dinner on that Sunday. I get phone calls still now. We canceled in 2020 because they closed the recreational center where we use it and all that stuff. They canceled. I had some pastors call me up like, what are we going to do now? That's like our one huge meal a year that we get. What are we going to do? You can't cancel next year. I'm like, man, it's out of my hands. I can't do nothing about it.
This year, I feel like we had amazing service. Though. This week was really, really good.
Yeah, it really was. The Lord really moved. Well, Brother Bradley didn't get to preach three nights out of the 7.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah. Getting to take that break is nice from being off the road, isn't it? Just being able to recuperate.
I think his brother Tabor was saying it's like a paid vacation. Paid night of vacation, yeah.
Well, what I love about that though with you all is even though you didn't get to preach and the Holy Ghost move, it wasn't like you were just sitting there. I love full-time evangelists that come in and have a burden for the church, not just. And I'm not throwing shade at anybody, but one thing, as any minister, myself included, you can go to a place and you could preach a fabricated message because you have it. And it doesn't make it a bad message. But I always love when preachers come in and they preach with a burden. Yeah. You got a burden for the church. You pray about it. Even if you do preach a message that you've already preached before, you're not preaching it because, hey, I did really good on that message. I think I could preach it 100 more times.
Yeah,
it's that burden, and then when you have them that come with the burden, they sing, they worship, they work the altars. To me, I think that is the sign of a tremendous full-time evangelist and family, and that's what I've seen with you all this week. Is it wasn't just the preaching. You're praying in the altars and you're worshiping and doing all that, and to me, I think that in and of itself speaks highly of the people that you are.
Well, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
We're just trying to help people and do work for God. And we were youth leaders for several years. And so one of the main things was we always try to get in the altar and push the altar and just be altar workers. Yeah. We need more altar workers in this hour. I think everybody wants a mic, but there's a lot more to it than I love to throw my voice out, amening. Not just being amen, not just being the preacher, but sorry there, brother.
No, you're good, brother.
This room echoes a lot.
But just appreciate the kind words, and God's helped us over the years, and appreciate the Lord.
Yeah. And just as a little side note, I know Brother Sean does a tremendous job editing. But if there's any noises that come through from edit, we've got some kids playing in the other room, so you might get to pick up a few noises here and there, but that's okay.
Well, that's part of the show is ministries. I mean, it's all the time, So that's kind of what we want to do with it is show that the backside of it all, and the backside of it is that you still have family, all this stuff. So we can get through all that.
Yeah.
So you've been on the road for 3 years, correct?
A little over 3, yeah.
Would you like to give us some backstory and how you got started on getting towards that point of getting on the road?
Yeah, so like I said, we were youth leaders for years. I got saved 19 years ago this August, and I actually was going to say that the other night, August 13th, 2006. So when Brother Rob Rasner was here and said what day he got saved, that's the exact day that I got saved.
Wow.
And so I really wasn't raised in holiness and really knew very little about this way. So what you hear is just what God has taught us and brung us into. And as you want to sing about?
I grew up at Brother Lee Baker's church.
So were you said you got saved 19 years ago, so you were raised in church,
Yes.
in holiness.
Yes.
So this is your life was around church and all that.
Yep. I remember giving my heart to the Lord in children's church. So
Really?
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, that is awesome.
When you got saved, was there was it like a crusade that came through, or was it something
It was
through the
just-
church?
They did when the classes would split up after Sunday school class, the children went to children's church, and I just remember Brother Danny Helton, him and Sister Sherry had done the class that day, and I just remember he'd asked if anybody wanted to know Jesus or had a heart, and I remember like kneeling down at the little and praying. I don't remember exactly how old I was. I was probably around Emily's age, maybe a little younger.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What was it that got your attention, not being raised in church? So how did you get involved in the holiness movement? What was it that God used to draw you in?
Okay, so my grandma and grandpa did go, and what little I went, which was probably once a year, maybe once every 2 years, I would go with them to Sunday school, and that's what little I was taught. And they did go to where our home church is now. And so what happened was, I don't think she would mind me telling this. Sorry if you hear me clearing my voice a lot. I've been preaching a lot.
No worries.
And so it's actually a very powerful story. And I've asked her if I could tell this because I would never want to embarrass my wife or my family. But I was actually, before I got in church, and I don't even like talking about it unless I feel like the Lord wants me to tell it, but I was actually dating a girl before my wife that was an atheist. And so I believed in the Lord, but I never just, I don't know how to explain it, never really just had that experience. And so my grandma one time had a problem with my feet, and she prayed for me, and God healed me. So it automatically, there was a seed planted there, and I had faith that, I believed God could do whatever he wanted to do. And so one night, me and this other individual had a falling out, and we split up. And I was I lived in Brown County, Indiana at that time with my parents, and hope I don't take too long on this story, but I lived at Brown County, Indiana with my parents. And if you ever seen Brown County, Indiana, it's beautiful if you get out in the country, and you can go out there where I lived at on an old gravel road, and you can hear a car 2-3 miles from you coming. And it just, the stars are beautiful. And one night, me and that girl had our split up, and I was sitting outside underneath the stars on the hood of a little Honda Civic that I had. And I began to talk to God out there, and I began to just feel something tugging at my heart. And I began to talk to the Lord, and there were several things that was said through her and my relationship, that how God wasn't real, and things started working on my mind that God wasn't real. And so out there laying on the hood of that car, I began to talk to God, and I said, God, if you're real, would you show me that you're real? And a little still small voice spoke to me and said, what would you have me to show you?
Wow.
And so I really, people will probably fall out with me for saying this, but I can't help it. It's the only way I know how to explain it. I really feel like, for number one, God knows the thoughts and intents of our heart. Mm-hmm. He knew what I was going to ask him before I ever asked. But I really feel like I could have asked for anything at that time, and God would have done it,
Yeah.
whatever it was. But I had my eyes fixed upon a star that was in the sky. And I said, Lord, if you're real, would you move that star? And God being my witness, I had that star didn't just move a little bit. It moved from one side of the sky across to the other, and it stopped. And so immediately the devil started talking to me.
Yeah.
And my conscience also, and saying that wasn't a star, that was a helicopter. And so I sit there till the breaking of the day and never took my eye off that star again, and it never moved. And that still small voice spoke to me after the devil had told me that wasn't a star, that was a helicopter. And that still small voice spoke to me again and said, how would he know which star that you're looking at anyhow?
Wow.
And so, yeah, God tugged at my heart, and it wasn't long I was at church.
Yeah.
And a little preacher by the name of David Blythe, one of my friends, goes to Shelby Street. And blessed brother, he come in our church and he was preaching one night on, do you got the victory? Just a simple message. And he said, he come back to my pew and he said, he asked her for whatever reason. He said, does he got the victory? And unlike a lot of people in this hour, I just spoke up and I said, no, sir, I don't. And he said, before you leave this night, the Holy Ghost hit him. He said, before you leave this night, you'll have it. And so when he made that altar call, I got up and went, and I've never looked back.
That's an amazing testimony. A lot of people today question whether or not God speaks.
Yeah.
And he does. He makes himself known every single day. If people are willing to listen and willing to talk, that's a wonderful, wonderful testimony.
He one place in Psalms, the Bible talks about how that he'd bow the mountains down, or the clouds down to the mountains if he needed to. Yeah. One place he made an axe head float.
Yeah.
The Lord can do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
And when he wants to do it. Yeah. And I found that out.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a conversation with my wife maybe 2 weeks ago. And there's some people, we've had several conversations with different people, and they've asked, praying about things and all that stuff. And I found that out of all those individuals, they would start talking about fleeces. And they talk about fleeces, like asking God to show himself. You've been saved 19 years. So at 19 years, you kind of feel a little guilty sometimes if you pray and you say, okay, God, if this is really you, because we think, man, we've had this relationship with him. He's proven himself to us time and time again. We shouldn't ever question this, but really, in all honesty, we need to have that. We need him to reveal himself to us every single day. And he does through his word. He does in our life. We might not see it all the time, but he does reveal himself every day. But I had that conversation with my wife, and I said, a lot of people are they're asking God to talk to them. They're asking God to do, and they make it sound like fleeces or asking God to do something specific. It's such a bad thing, almost like you're doubting. Yeah. But it's really not. I mean, when Gideon, it was Gideon that had the fleeces.
Right.
God never ever rebukes him for asking. Gideon said, if this is really you, and really what he was saying was, if this is really you, I want you to show me that it's really you. Yeah. And so first he laid out the skin, and he said, let the dew be all around and not on. And any other time, I might have it flipped, let everything else be dry, but let the other, God never rebuked him for that. He just said, okay, I'm gonna reveal myself. What a wonderful thing to serve a God that's willing to look at people down here on this earth, whether we've been saved 20 years or whether we've been saved 6 months or whether we've got people that God's dealing with now. He's willing to show us who he is.
Yeah. I was preaching my testimony in a service one time. Several times I've told, that story. If God moves on me, I'll tell it. And I'll never forget, the Lord used somebody in tongues interpretation, and it said something like this, I've sent my servant tonight with the message for this church. He said, I did hang them stars in the sky, and I'll move them as I please.
Wow.
I've never forgot that.
Wow.
I think when you look at the character of God, and there's a story that comes to my mind that's been used at homecoming after homecoming or special services where try to focus more towards the lost, and it was talking about this mom and dad and their son. They had a falling out, and a boy went and made a wreck of his life and got hit rock bottom. And he told his mom, said, I'm going to come back home. I'm going to try and come back home. And he wrote a letter to her and said, if you and Dad say it's okay for me to come home, put a white ribbon in the tree. Has you guys heard this story before? Mm-hmm. He said, put a white ribbon in a tree, and I'll know that it's okay for me to come home. And he said that as he was coming up, and he was walking up on the house, that every tree in the had a white ribbon on it.
Wow.
And if means that much for a parent to go out of their way to show how much they love their kid. And I mean, is that a major act? Well, maybe for some people it is, but for him, that was huge to see that his parents still loved him, even though that he went so far out. And I don't see why, we always say, well, God's got so much on his hands. This and that. No, God isn't burdened down by anything that we put before him. He created the whole world, and he measured the waters in the palm of his hands. I mean, he's a big God. There's nothing that is too much or that we could ask that is impossible for him. So to say, Lord, prove yourself to me, show me who you really are. I think that's just awesome to know that, I want to make the right decision, Lord. I want to know that you are God.
In some ways, I think as Christians, we kind of miss it if we don't ask God, because we rely on our thought. I think this, or my opinion is this, or, my emotion. We're very emotional people, and emotions drive us a lot. I don't think that there's anything wrong with anybody on a daily basis saying, okay, God, it's not that I'm doubting him. I'm wanting to truly, I want to see you, I want to see your work, and I want to see that the way that we're going is the way that we need to be.
I think the amazing thing for me is, and growing up in it, you kind of take it for granted almost, is that how personal God is. Like him answering that prayer for you. Like time isn't necessarily obviously relevant to him, but he still takes time to do that. I remember one service, and this was probably 9 or 10 years ago. We were having a shout down, and I was really bitter. I had heartbreak, and I had been carrying it around for years. I thought my life was going to go one way, and it hadn't. And it was like, and not to be, dramatic, but to Lissa, it was like you hurt every time you breathe, because I had just been hurt so bad. Mm-hmm. And we were having a shout down, and I was the one singing, actually. And I was like, God, how in the world can you move for these people? But I'm standing up here trying to sing, and I am so heartbroken that I don't know. You're not even answering my prayers. And Aunt Lois, was on the piano, and I said that to myself. And she turned around and grabbed my hand, and she said, sis, he still answers prayer. Didn't hear anything. Yeah. And I went to the altar, and I can take you back to the spot. And I said, God, fix it. Fix me. And I literally felt something come in and just put my heart back together. Awesome. And ever since then, it's been, again, it's a personal thing. Even if he was working in other situations, he still, went to this bitter-hearted person and was like, here, I'll fix it for you.
So getting back in church, how did you move into the ministry?
So it wasn't very long that God just reading the Bible and studying, and God just teaching me a lot, and my pastor working with me, but it really wasn't very long. It was really mind blowing just to look back how God just started growing us in the Lord together. Mm-hmm. And I'll say this, I'm thankful to have a wife who has never, ever once come against me in the ministry. And I'll tell you, that is a big blessing.
Yeah.
There's several things I could say about that right there, how God's helped us together. But it wasn't, I've got it wrote down. I can't remember exactly how long. It wasn't very long. I actually got the Holy Ghost just a few days later.
2 days, yeah.
2 days later.
Got saved on Sunday and Tuesday.
And so God moved us along. He knew I needed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all do, though, but he really knew I think I needed it. And so got it just a few days later, and it wasn't real long. Next thing I knew, we was teaching young people and this working in the ministry. God got to deal with me about preaching. Tell this little story. My pastor we'd had a time where there just wasn't very many, I'll leave it at that, at the church. He was the only preacher. At that time, we had church every Tuesday night, Saturday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night. And when you don't have very many at that time, there's not money to have preachers come,
Yeah.
And so unless somebody God lays it on their heart, they're probably not coming,
Right.
And so God got to deal with me about preaching. Of course, I fought it and give him every reason why I couldn't do it. And I still stumble on words and mumble, I feel like. And I have a friend that actually tells she mumbles and I mumble. And then we preach and sing, and everybody's like, I don't understand why people think you're shy, because we get up there and yell and holler like crazy people.
You're on the right podcast for mumbling and getting your words mixed up.
So
Me and Ryan do it all the time.
So my friend, I know it's hard to believe, I do have a friend though. But he said, I don't even know how you and your wife met. He goes, all you do is mumble. He's like, it's like you got your own language. Like only you two can understand it. And so we were about as shy and backwards as anybody could be. And but God called me to preach, confirmed it in many ways. I call my pastor, I tell this little story. I get tickled at listening to him tell it. But I called him over and had him for dinner. Said, I want to talk to you. I called him over and said, Brother Jay, I said, him and Sister Vicky come over, and I said, we want to talk to you about something. So we ate, sitting on the couch. I began to tell him, felt like God called me to preach. Well, he kept it together pretty good there, and he said, all right, he goes, I want to ask you some questions. You want to make sure I was qualified to preach. I believe there's qualifications. And so he said, all right, be ready next Tuesday. Okay. And never forget this, though. He said, when I left your house, he said, when I got out in your driveway, he said, David, he said, I shouted all over your driveway. He said, I had nobody else at that time. And something crazy here, about 2 months later, he fell off a truck at his job, and messed a bunch of ribs up and some other things, broke some stuff. And I was the only preacher in the church, so guess who preached every Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday morning, Sunday night. Wow. So that kind of gives you a little bit of, how we just kind of come along.
Out of the frying pan into the fire.
I guess so. That's something. It's wonderful how God moves, and he not only moves in a way for you in your life, but he's got a wonderful way of putting us where he needs us. I always look at it. The scripture says that he places us in the body, and it's not as he sees fit, but he places us in the body as it pleases him. So he puts us where he needs us. That's the one thing. Sometimes it's kind of hard to wrap around the ministry. Sometimes is people move. Pastors, sometimes they pastor a church for 10 years and then they go to another one or something and it's just how God works and moves. So. Seeing the need in your church and then calling you to preach, and then right after that, just a couple months later, you being the one that has to carry that burden, it's wonderful to just see the hand of God through all of that.
Yeah, God's definitely had mercy on me and them.
Well, here in Sharonville, they've, when we started coming here, we were, 20, I think I was 23. Mm-hmm. So, that was back in the day when I was about 50 pounds lighter and I had a full head of hair. I think Sister Melissa sent me a picture the other day and said, who is this guy? And it was me when I first started coming here, and I was like, I don't recognize that man. I don't know who that is, But, I was just a young preacher myself. I'd been in the ministry for a while. God called me when I was 16. But when I came here, Dad quite literally was the only preacher, and it was Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday morning, Sunday night. And my grandpa came, but he was at the end of his ministry. He was, he would come and he would always say, I'm not joining the church because I like to be a bird. And he'd flap his wings, I like to be free. But he didn't go anywhere else. He only ever came to Sharonville, But he was at the end of his ministry, and so Dad was carrying it. And we had just kind of just worked in a little church. We didn't know what it meant to be ready Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday morning, Sunday night. And then years down the road, Dad would get leukemia. And at that time I was the youth pastor, and Dad was 6 months, I think, altogether out of the church. He couldn't be around anybody. He had no immune system. And so then I went from this, being there for a little bit of time to all of a sudden being pastor while Dad was there. So it is, I love seeing how God works, you know. in that.
You know,
in
we're
that
interviewing
situation.
him, right?
No, I know.
He prepares us. He prepares us
He
for
prepares
stuff.
us. Well, I just think it's a wonderful thing to see.
I'm just joking with you.
Yeah, yeah.
So then you moved on from doing that and then into prison ministry, right? Was that the next
jail
step?
ministry. That was really before we kind of it started in 2020, and so that's just where we're. I was preaching about that today. Yeah, so, there was a lot of things in between for sure. To it before just preaching in the home church, and then prison ministry, and
Youth
going
leaders. We did
to youth leader for years, and then just God has kept us busy no matter what we've been doing, and there's a lot to do for the Lord, I guess.
Yeah,
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there really is.
So what led you into being full-time evangelism? What was the one thing that I'm sure there was a conglomerate of things, but what was the first telltale sign for you that it was time to spread the gospel?
So I'd worked a job for a company called Interstate for years. I was there for 15, and I loved the job. I started at the bottom and wound up being pretty high up there. And God got to working on me and worked me over for about a year before I even told her. And I gave God, again, just like preaching, I gave God every excuse why that I couldn't do it, and that I'll just, maybe this will help somebody. I'll throw this out there, but I'll try not to name names, but where I had an issue with it was I just come from that little country church.
Yeah.
And I just said, man, Lord, nobody knows me. There's no way. And you got the wrong person. I gave him every excuse. Well, when I got to where I wasn't sleeping at night and a lot of time went on, I mean, God just worked me over. Finally, I told her after about a year, and I feel like it was about a year before we had really even told anybody.
Yeah.
And I went through a hard trial where we had a man, actually, one of my dad's best friends, he actually died on a motorcycle in front of our church. And there were some things that happened. There just had a wreck there. And it messed with my mind quite a bit because it was very brutal.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go into all that. That's a long story in itself. But y'all just worked me over in that 2 years. And my mind was just very not at a good place. He made me very uncomfortable until I finally just started giving in. I was just miserable, basically, like I'm going to have to do this. And so one of my last things, I could go into many things, but one of the last things was I just, I told the Lord, and I don't even like saying that, like I told God something, it's not that like more like fleeces. But I just told the Lord, I said, if this is really you, at that time, we done a lot in our church. We were youth leaders. We had done, we were workers. You got them people, what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so I mainly just got to the place where I just told the Lord, I said, if this is really you, you're going to send some young couples in here. That's going to not just be young couples, but workers in this church. And if it's you, you're going to do it. And I kid you not, here they came.
Yep.
And God started sending them in. And then I thank God for it. We have 17 kids right now at our church that's over the age of 12.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And so we don't have a very big church. Probably, if we're not there, they probably have 45, but most of them is 12 and younger. And so, but they had good parents, and I mean, they are working machines.
Yes.
And we need that in this hour, solid young couples.
Yes.
So God done it, and I just said, all right, Lord, then convince my pastor. And so Brother Jay was preaching one night, and he said, I come over the hill. He's called me out many times over the years. He said, I come over the hill, and he said, I saw a truck trailer, and he said, I thought, man, somebody needs to grab that and hit the field.
Yeah, they were for sale.
And he began to preach, and I was like over in the corner, like, he knows. And so I crawled in the altar that night, and I remember he was we still do foot washings at our church. Have seen tremendous things happen in that over the years. And we was washing feet one night, and my pastor got down and he washed my feet, and he began to speak in tongues, and interpretation came, and it just said something along the lines like, I've called thee to do this work. You have to go. The souls are waiting on you. And then it was just a few days later, maybe a few weeks, we was in a service, and we was getting prayed for in a prayer line, me and her, and he put his hand on my head, and he said, son, he said, I see a bright light shining around your head. And he said, the souls are marching towards it. You have to go preach my gospel. Wow. And so I knew then, I was completely convinced, but I did have one more thing. I just began to say, Lord, we had a house, we had vehicles paid for, things were just going good, retirement. It was looking good. I thought I had it all figured out, and my last thing was I said, Lord, I don't want to pull my wife and my children out of their home, and you're going to have to talk to her, and you're going to have to convince her. I want her to tell this.
Yeah. How did that work with you?
And then he did. So I would been praying about it the whole time. Right after he told me, I had been praying about it, and seeking the Lord. And I wanted him to really show me, that that's what he wanted, because, I've never in my entire life wanted to do something that he didn't want me to do, Yeah. And so I had been praying about it and visiting churches and just seeking after the Lord. And we went to visit a church and had a phenomenal service. And I remember the altar call was winding down. There was still a few praying. Alder and I had went and sat at the back of the church with his cousin's wife. And we were just sitting there. And a brother in the church wanted to pray for me. And so he went and got David and he started praying for me and spoke some words that he thought the Lord, that he felt that the Lord wanted me to know. And, it was it still wasn't really clear to me. I'm the one that's black and white. I want to know. I
don't want a riddle.
Yeah. No, that's me. I want to know. Just tell me straight out. And so I remember sitting there and I had my head down, and in my mind, I just said, Lord, would you speak to me clearly? And it wasn't even a second later, the Lord used him in prophecy, and he said, I have spoke to thee many times, you have to go. And so then I knew right then, okay, we're going.
Lord, Uncle. Yeah.
So here we are,
Here
3 years later.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you have a young family. You've got 2 young girls.
Yes.
And all that. So how has that affected them as far as going out on the road?
They love being on the road, and they are complete opposite. They are not shy. They love to be around crowds of people.
I think Lily is a little bit sometimes,
but she still jumps right in there, and she has friends in, other states, and they still get excited when they're like, where are we going next? And we tell them they already know who they're going to see, whose church is it? And they're ready to go. They know what they're going to play. They already know where they're going to be, but they love it. And then, evangelist quarters and places we stay are probably their favorite thing too. They which one is it? Is it the one that has, this or that? They already associate an evangelist quarters with certain things, but they love it.
It's a giant adventure for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been fun watching them this week because they got with our kids when we were eating dinner together. Yeah. And I think, no exaggeration, I think we had 50 cars honking.
Yeah, that was so funny.
Where they were literally hanging up a sign up here where this 4-way intersection was, and it was all backed up, and they were holding up a sign that said honk. And all, I think 2 or 3 of our kids were out there, and your guys' girls were out there, and they were all just hooping and hollering and all that stuff. And all you hear is just cars honking. I thought it was awesome.
At first, I was like, what is going on? I thought there was something wrong, but then when it was 5 honks in a row, I was like, and then the screams, I was like,
they needed a sign that said revival or something.
That's what
a big arrow.
Sister Darla said that. She's like, we should have given him a revival sign.
When you get preachers' kids together, you never know what's going to happen.
It's very
Could
interesting.
Could have got Caden one of those big arrow signs,
Yes.
and he could have been like flipping the sign. And all
No,
that, yeah,
no joke.
craziness.
Caden was jumping up and down over here
Oh, I know.
on the porch, just like
He was showing me his crazy little dance that he was doing. to
he
get
looked
people-
like he looked like one of those. If you go to the used car places, that those men that have the air, then they just the two people. That's what my boy looked like out there when he was jumping up and down on the porch. It was awesome. I love seeing it. A lot of people think that preachers' kids, and they do have. There is a hardship with preachers' kids, and we understand that. But I know my some people with my family have said, man, you keep your kids in church and they don't get socialization. But really, in all honesty,
I get so much.
Yeah.
Yes.
they've got friends all over the place.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They love it. Honestly, I feel like the hardest thing for them at all is Lily's a lot like me, and I feel like the hardest thing is the school on the road.
Yeah.
So it isn't bad when we're there, and it's been a few days. They're settled in. They're over it. The new whatever it is.
It's always the second day. Like the first day we get there, like schooling, I have to remind them, like, this is where we're going to school this week. And so then the second day they're tuned in, like, okay, sit down and get it done. But the first day they can't focus. They're like,
especially
all over the place.
If you're doing it on the road, you can about hang it up.
Yeah.
yeah.
Today, right after the dinner, she just got right.
Oh, yeah.
She grabbed a towel and was doing the dishes right with her.
Yeah, I
go.
think
that was awesome.
workers.
Yeah.
Our family's always been workers. Like just,
That's
it is
awesome.
what it is. I think it's in our kids.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
When we get to a place, it's like for that week, that's home church for the week, So we're gonna get right in there.
Yeah.
We're gonna get the noodles out of the sink.
That was definitely a bonding experience.
Very much so. Very much so.
So I was fixing a spaghetti dinner here.
You gotta share.
I know, right? Now that you did that. And we had almost everything done. And all of a sudden I realized, because we're having dinner in this evangelist, whatever you call this house that we're in,
Ministry building.
the ministry building. Yes. It's a house of many ministries.
Many
We use
uses.
it for a
It's
lot of
multi-purpose.
things.
It's
Yes.
used for everything but a house.
Yes. So we're cooking dinner over here, and I realized as I'm getting ready to strain the spaghetti that we
How
don't.
many pounds was that
It
pack
was
of noodles?
well, it was only 2 pounds.
Okay.
Because
Seemed like
I
so much more.
I know. I had brought 2 packs of 2 pounds. So I had 4 pounds
Okay, yeah.
altogether. And so the pot that's here wasn't that big. So I'm like, I think I'm just only going to put 1 pack in and cook it. And then we'll
Thankfully.
Thankfully. Because as I'm getting ready to strain it, I realized we don't have a strainer. So I'm like, it's fine. I'll just use a dish towel and hold the lid and like pour it, Well, of course, that lid really
It was not letting any
sealed.
water.
Yeah, it
come
was
out.
like,
Yeah.
okay. So I kept trying to like loosen it just a little bit. And all of a sudden, all of our spaghetti went
Plop.
into the sink, into all the dirty dishes. And
Oh,
Sister
no.
Darla and I
We just
stared
look
at
at
it. I was like, okay,
What
well,
do we do now?
Good thing we bought 2 packs.
I know. It's okay. I was like, it's fine. I have a whole nother pack. I'll just boil the water really quick. And so she just reaches in there, both hands, and just starts shoveling the spaghetti in the trash can. I'm like, here you go. We'll just do it together. It was a bonding moment
It was
for sure.
It was.
But we did not make them eat the spaghetti that.
That was in the sink.
We appreciate that.
I'm very.
I mean, it
thankful
wasn't
for that.
like it was just,
I mean, if
feel
there
like-
hadn't been any other spaghetti,
Exactly. If it was a
might have
clean
crossed
sink.
our mind.
Yes. I had a friend that I won't name her name, but she told me when they first got married that she was fixing spaghetti and the same thing happened, but she had put Comet
Yeah, she had just
in her
cleaned her
sink.
sink with Comet.
and it was like the powder was still in there, and she dumps her spaghetti in there and she gets it and rinses it off and serves it to him.
Wow. Some good Parmesan
I
cheese.
Why is it spicy?
Disclaimer: we don't approve of that. We're not trying to poison the preachers.
So
that
we did
come
not do
around.
that. And listen, the Lord made that spaghetti go so far, didn't
There
he?
was so much left over.
I know.
After
I was like,
all
we're
of us
going to
ate.
pray over this spaghetti, because by then we only had the 2 pounds, and we had like a huge bag of
And there was
spaghetti
like
left.
10 of us, and
Yeah.
we had seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The Lord just multiplied.
Multiplying the noodles.
there's always an adventure. would you guys be willing to stick around and do a part 2 for this? Because I know, Sister Darla, if you're okay, I know you've got some tremendous testimonies that God's done for you. I think it'd be wonderful to share those, and then we can go more into some other things with the ministry, and we can do a part 2 for this story. Because I know we kind of try to keep things in, but I'm enjoying this. I think it's wonderful, and I'd love to continue on into the next episode.
Okay, well, guys, tune in next week for part 2. Thanks for tuning in. And you can leave us a like or a comment. Send us an email at pulpitandpew@gmail.com. Or now you can send us a text. So thanks for tuning in.
See you, everybody.